used to compete in the USA, they would take. Think of it as an early version of the Race of Champions that you've seen in the early part of the year, but it was all run on tarmac racetracks in the States, some road circuits, some of the ovals, the big names from NASCAR and from all of the other forms of racing raced identical cars. Very, very, very lovely car, that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, of course, part of the commentary team here for the Bathurst 6 Hour is a number of pit lane reporters. We spoke to Becky Lamb a little bit earlier on, but let's catch up with our other pit lane reporter today. Mark Walker, very good morning, mate.
Good morning, guys. James O'Brien, event director here for the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. Easter Sunday, perfect weather, Mount Panorama Bathurst. What more could you want?
Where else would you rather be? We've got the trifecta of daylight saving ending, Easter Sunday, and what's the third one?
Mount Panorama Bathurst.
That's right. No, it's a great morning, beautiful conditions. Looking forward to the Pod Sports race coming up, and then the main race at 11:30.
Obviously, the main race, it's going to be so fascinating. It's going to be, qualifying was red hot. Everyone's got a point to prove in the race, though, and it's going to play a massive part.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it won't come down to outright speed. We saw them going at it yesterday, some really impressive times. Newer cars on the grid this year. You can see that in the lap times. Quality of drivers has improved, so it's getting more competitive each year. But the beauty is, over 6 hours, you know, anyone could win in the top 20 cars.
And the field just gets better and better every single year.
That's right. Look, we're very happy with the size of the field. The quality has improved in terms of some newer model cars. So as the older cars drop out, newer cars come in. Some better drivers will come in to co-drive with these guys. So, you know, the whole thing's growing nicely.
Well, enjoy the race.
Thanks, Mark.
Great to have, of course, James O'Brien here this weekend. Put so much work and effort and tireless hours behind this event each and every single year. And he's a very happy boy, I think, this weekend with the reception that we've got, not just here in Bathurst, not just New South Wales, Australia, but across the world as well. And, of course, that's support and sponsorship of High-Tech Oils as well, and George Gambino continuing his great, I suppose, foundation that he got there, and the great support of this event each and every single year. And he's going to play a big part, of course, as our build-up towards the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour as well. We've got a glorious day here at Mount Panorama. Sunshine on this Easter Sunday. Where in the world would you want to be? And we have got some exotic machinery in front of us here right now, about to do battle for 1 hour on this glorious 6.213 kilometre racetrack. We'll wait for the green flag at the back and get this one underway. The sound of Porsches at Mount Panorama on the rev limiter. Race 2 of the production sports this weekend. It's the Shields McPherson entry with Daniel Stutter on the front row. They're being held here for a while and a long time, but they get underway right now. Yellow flags at the moment. A couple of people getting away sluggish, but a great start from Dan Stutter. He's going to lead the field into turn number 1, lap number 1. Once again, like we saw yesterday, that Brad Shields, Andrew McPherson, iMac Porsche has gone from first back to 5th. Not 10th like we saw yesterday, but another sluggish start. But that will make for a very interesting 1 hour ahead. Dan Stutter has already got a huge margin over the rest of the field as they come over the rise of Mountain Straight for the first time. And here comes the Shields McPherson entry. Now, we haven't got the identification as to which driver is in that car at the moment. Of course, it also is a 2-driver format for some. There's 13 nominations up and down the lane that have decided to nominate a B driver for this weekend, and they do also have to make a driver change if that's the case, and contact at the cutting. Unfortunately, this is going to be a safety car and a major moment. Everyone else, thankfully in behind, has done the smart thing, heads up driving, stood on the brakes, and we're only going to have the one car caught up there. But drama on lap 1.
That's the Anthony Skinner and Andre Heimgartner number 46 Porsche, I think, that's gone in hard on driver's right, heading up towards the cutting. Damage both sides. That Porsche is going absolutely nowhere, trying to make positions up on the inside. Was it the 46? Yes, it was. And it looked like, well, there was an Audi in close proximity there, Brian, but I think he's gone in there on his own. Yeah,
it's interesting to see, isn't it? And, of course, the medical team, they're just on scene, making sure that things are A-OK, precaution as always. So, I mean, that point of the racetrack has proven to be quite entertaining, to say the least, over the 80 years up here at Mount Panorama, most notably 2005 with Greg Murphy and Marcus Ambrose. But unfortunately there, that 46 Porsche found the wall quite heavily as well. A lot of right front damage on that car, and unfortunately safety car period. Now it's interesting to note, if this safety car is still out come minute 20, yes, you can make that compulsory pit stop, and we saw that happen yesterday. And we've seen it over a number of years here, in fact, that the safety car just happens to land like it did yesterday, bang on that window, and people take that opportunity, but we won't see anyone in on the completion of lap number 1.
I think the yellow flags on the start, by the way, were for the 994 Ginetta on the left-hand side of the grid. Just didn't quite get the clutch drop right and stuttered away, but the car has got underway. That's the Adam Burgess and Mark Griffith Ginetta G50. We've got the Ginetta GT4 in this as well. That's one of the 4-litre cars as opposed to 3.7. Good little cars around here. The Jeffrey Hume's got another one there, so at least 3 of Garforth's best in the field. A car that I have done a bit of racing with, the G55 version. I always thought they would make a good endurance car, very user-friendly. In the first corner and completing the first lap, but with the safety car now on the circuit for this production sports car race, their second race of the weekend. I'm disappointed with that. I'm not entirely surprised, Brian, but I think that was there was quite a few people being a little optimistic on that first lap. I know it's when you can make up time, but here at the mountain, you've got to let the race settle in for a lap or two. Yeah,
that's exactly right, and that's going to be a major talking point, isn't it, with the opening few laps of the 6 hour coming up this morning as well. So we'll take a look at the start here in just a moment, as well as Dan Stutter will lead the field back to the green once we get that back underway. So we're looking at that 994 Ginetta, that red one that might have possibly been a little bit slow away. Might have even been the 55 out, behind them, yeah, the number 88, the number 80 Ginetta right at the back of the field. So that was the car that unfortunately didn't quite get going. Likewise as well for the iMac Porsche, going nowhere off the start line from first back to fifth. But check out the lead that Stutter had at the end of the of Mountain Straight. He absolutely vaulted from the field.
He got an absolutely brilliant start and was going very nicely indeed, and he'd be disappointed that he's had to be pegged back behind the safety car. But you know, there's nothing worse, is there? You get all the adrenaline of going into the first lap, and then you've got to calm yourself down again. Left and right front damage on the Porsche going up there, and I'm still not convinced about whether he went on it when he's on. Maybe we'll get some clues. The 88 Audi had got through cleanly. Let's have a look at the back of the car. I don't see any damage on the back of the car, Brian, as he went into the wall. I mean, it's not unheard of to understeer off there on cold tyres. Pretty good job of avoidance by everybody coming through there.
Lights are out on the High-Tech Oils Toyota 86 safety car, and we'll get set to go green this time by, interesting to mention, we've still got 48 minutes left in this race. How's the Nick Kelly-Butt-Moore entry literally pushing Dan Stutter down into the chase right now, so he means business here for this restart. The compulsory pit stop window will open in 7.5 minutes time, and don't count out Keith Kasuki either in position 3. He was mighty at points in yesterday's race. Back underway here at the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 hour for the 1 hour production sports car race into Murray's Corner. Back down the pit straight. Dan Studdard, a nice restart. The Moore Kelly entry just a little bit further back at the moment in that Audi R8, but I think the person you've got to really watch for is Keith Kasuki on this restart. Speaking of restarts, Rio Nagara right down the inside there at Hell Corner.
Yeah, in the Audi, making the use of the aero of that car as well as the really good brakes. He must have got heat into the brakes and the tyres really nicely. That was a confident move down the inside to take the position. The top 3, though, are pulling away to make that the top 4. Then the battle pack from that 88 Audi just having moved up into 5th position, and then everybody else is 5th.
Hopefully we can get through the cutting cleanly this time. I don't want to play devil's advocate. Look at the fluid there on the driver's right, so obviously they'll be certainly aware to that at the moment. First time though in green flag conditions on this Easter Sunday that the cars will will romp up towards the top of Mount Panorama. I tell you what, for Dan Stutter, he hasn't quite got away yet at the moment from the rest of the field. And the iMac Porsche at the moment, sitting position number 4. This is what we saw yesterday. Their opening period of the race isn't as strong as what they are towards the end of the race. Dare I say it's probably maybe Andrew McPherson in that car at the moment, and he'll hand over to Brad Shields a little bit later on as well. Of course, former winners in the Australian GT Championship as well. So for the first time this race at minute 15 or 14 at the moment, almost 15 into this race, they're going to come down the S's ginger pace, I'd say, at the moment, because it is still a long way to go.
Yeah, and they'll still be getting heat and pressure, therefore, into the tyres, because sitting behind the safety car, any that they did build up before will have disappeared. And I know it's hot, everybody will be thinking, what is he talking about? The tyres will be hot, of course they will be. Well, you pressure the tyres and expect those pressures to come up a little bit as the temperature on the carcass goes up, and you can't overpressure them, otherwise you'll get no life out the tyres. And I know this is only an hour-long race, but you will find a bit of tyre drop-off at the end. These are relatively heavy GT cars. Battle for first and second at the end of the chase.
Xavier West here looking down the inside in that 55 Audi and gets the job done. Something completely different than what he's used to. He drives the GT4 BMW, believe it or not, in the Australian GT Championship. He just came from there last weekend, and of course was third here. No, sorry, I should correct myself. Was fifth here at the Bathurst 12 Hour in Class C. That was the car that had troubles and damage, remember, at Forest Elbow that particular day.
Well, he's making that 55 Audi sing at the moment, and he has pulled away, made the Malibu Boats Audi R8 LMS Ultra down the inside, made it look very easy. And now he's disappeared. It was a classic overtaking manoeuvre down through the super fast right-hander into the chase, and then that uphill, slightly uphill left-hander. Got to be very careful on the transition over to the next left in that chicane there, Brian, because the crown of the road, this is a road of course, makes that not necessarily a typical classic racing line there. You can easily lose the back end of the car. Quite often see people spinning to the inside of that.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that it does slightly go back uphill there. So the braking marker, I suppose you would say, can often be a little bit later than what you think,
Very
because
much so.
gravity, the way that it works, you can brake a little bit later going up the hill. And the thing that obviously people watching the live stream this sporting won't understand is the elevation change. The TV cameras do not show it justice. And the chase is particularly one important factor, because when you actually, because I've driven this, I've done 138 laps in my road car around here at the moment. I'm keeping stat. When you come up into the chase there in that left-hander, you're completely blind. So that right-hander that leads you out, you can't actually see it. So in terms of positioning your car, it's so hard to get right.
Also, for people who aren't familiar with the circuit, it looks a lot tighter than it is.
Oh, yeah.
And there's two ways to get that wrong. There's always ways to get corners wrong, of course. But you can either be too slow into it and give your opponent a chance to dive down the inside, because it's a nice wide entry. That's what we saw there. If you get overconfident, and you can get easily overconfident, it is so easy with the crown of the road just to have the front end wash out, and you find 2 and then 4 wheels on the dirt, and then you're in a whole heap of trouble. Second position now, the 23 of Daniel Stuttert comes down to the final corner at Murray's. Don't take too much of the curb there. Meantime, fighting back through the field, another one of the Audis. The Audis are liking this weather. The 63 Koala Furniture Ross Lilly car in another one of the LMS Ultras. I think they're getting up to pace better than the rest of the manufacturers' cars.
Well, we tend to see that, don't we, when it's the 12 hour here. They're not particularly fast going up and down the mountain because of their high downforce package, but they're mighty going across the top. So it's interesting, and we'll mention this a lot this afternoon, how different cars achieve their speeds at different points on the racetrack as well. So we've got a couple of battle packs. Interesting to note too, we haven't made mention of it, different classes here in this particular 1 hour as well. So Class X is what you're seeing right here at the moment. Of course, our 2 leaders outright in front. So Class X is basically our thoroughbred GT3 cars. Class A is also here. You've also got Class B, the breakdown Class C, and then we've got 1 Class F car here this weekend, Dougie Barber in the 911 machine. So it's tightening up at the front right now. The margin last time through was saying 5.9 seconds. Well, it's certainly not that at the moment as they come across the top of Mount Panorama. But interesting to note, that compulsory pit stop window is going to open in 1 minute and exactly 35 seconds.
Keith Kasulka in the black Mark cars, Mark II. Remember, they started off with hatchback bodies on the tube frames. Very much an Australian car, this. Might look like an American muscle car. Does have a big V8, which actually I think now is a South African manufacturer that the crate motor comes for the V8s in the Mark cars. You can have them looking like a variety of hatchbacks, but this new coupe style car, what they call the Mark Cars 2, the blue car in third position at the moment, they've taken everything they learned, Brian, in those hatchback style cars and applied it and improved it and given a slightly more aerodynamic, swoopy body. It has the look of a Mustang, but it's, you know, it's not based on a Mustang, it's a Mark Cars design. Leader goes through, and that 5.6 seconds, well, he's done another quickest lap of the race, 2:07.7 for the leader, and here's that battle for second. Keith Kasulka, very, very experienced driver indeed, and great to see him back after a nasty fiery accident a couple of years ago. Spoke to him in the paddocks of the Creventic series, the 24-hour series, and just wanted to get back to driving, kept that as his focus, and he's lost none of his pace.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? So that compulsory pit stop window is about to open here, so you could probably expect maybe some towards the back end of the field to come on in, complete that stop. You will obviously recognise that because in fact, bang on 20 minutes now, that compulsory pit stop window will open. So the question now is, when do the leaders decide to come on in? Now, we made mention that it's a compulsory, you must stay in your pit bay for 45 seconds. When you add in the transit time of around about 32 seconds, you're looking at about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So if you look down the field at the moment, in terms of the strategists back in the lane right now, if you're in the fight for the lead, you want to bring your car in, put it back out into a clear part of the racetrack to try and do what we call the undercut, basically.
There's been a change of position there. The 13 Porsche has gone behind the number 8 Straight 8 Racing Roaring 40s GT40. I love this car because it's, you know, it has the look of a classic GT40, but it's running in the Chip Ganassi racing colours that we see in the World Endurance Championship and in the IMSA Championship and at Le Mans as well. Well, one or two people getting ready down in the pit lane, getting ready to go racing.
Eric Pender just on the left there. He was synonymous in the early days of the Kmart racing team with Greg Murphy here in the Supercars Championship, and it's great to see now that he's moved on with his, I suppose, his motorsport endeavours, joining the Audi Sport customer racing program now and loving his motorsport as he always does. Of course, Daniel Gaunt there, the shot of him. He'll step into the car next. Gary Higgin currently in that at the moment.
And Daniel Gaunt, if you missed the earlier reports from here at Bathurst that we did yesterday on the radio, has been drafted in as an additional driver into the 6 hours, and having 3 drivers rather than 2 in the 6 hours frees up a lot of strategy. So Daniel doing double duty, this will not do him any harm at all to get a feel of the track conditions this Easter Sunday morning when he goes out in this production sports race.
And that's a very good point that you mentioned, because bang on, this car right here, Andrew McPherson behind the wheel at the moment, he's going to hand over to Brad Shields here, and Brad Shields also competing in the 6 hour this afternoon as well. So the iMac Porsche, the first car to come into the lane at the moment, bang on that compulsory pit stop window opening, the first one of the leaders. Remember, he was 4th when he came in. It'll be interesting to see where that car will resume.
Yellow lights flashing on the start line, and I think we've got a safety car. I think we've got a safety car. It's the 51 Porsche, as Brian said, just comes into the pit lane. How lucky have they been? They got in just as it was called. Now, did they spot something out on the circuit? If so, that is a genius call. Also, the Lamborghini, this number 6 Lamborghini, the safety spot Richard Gartner car, is into the pit lane. The Lamborghini REX, so they have timed it perfectly. The leaders, of course, went through. So the 99 Audi, the 23 Porsche, the 91 Mark cars, all of those and more went through, and they are now slowing down, and they're going to lose track position.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly are. So it's going to be interesting here, because maybe they got caught behind the safety car, maybe they didn't. So it depends how fast they're going to come back to the pit lane here. But this actually happened a few years ago, believe it or not, even in a worse situation. So the safety car was actually trundling around. We had quite a lengthy safety car period. Believe it or not, 1 year, the compulsory pit stop window opened underneath safety car, but it opened at a point where the second half of the field underneath the train were able to pit in and actually get a free kick.
The leaders are just heading on to the straight here. at the Conrod Straight. In fact,
Oh, here we go. This is the shots.
If you can, oh my goodness, well that's why.
And that's
Porsche. Is that the 48 car? 68 car, excuse me.
And quite often there at the great section, Sullivan Park, that can often be quite a sizable impact there.
He's the wrong way around there, isn't he?
Yep, he's the wrong way around. So typically what happens, you come towards the grate there. If you're too far over on driver's right and your basically right wheels are on the grate, the car steps out because you're on the marbles, and then basically it backs itself into the wall.
Explain the grate for those people who perhaps are watching for the first time. We know it.
Yes.
It's something that you see there, but it's one of the landmarks as you drive around Mount Panorama.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? So what the story is that often, because obviously there's high elevation up there, to help with the drainage of Mount Panorama, there is a drain and a grate that sits right basically where you plant your right-hand side of the car.
You aim for it, actually.
Yep, you aim for
exit
it.
point.
And if you actually go up there and feel it, it is covered, the top of it is full of rubber, obviously, because it rubbers up throughout the racing season. So it's an incredible point of the racetrack, and that's why we call it the grate.
Right, this is very, very important indeed, because the safety car is out and it's picked up
the number 6
it's
Lamborghini.
not the leader. So the leaders have got in behind the train, so they have now completed an extra lap on everybody else. So these guys need to be waved by. So this is going to actually work out okay for the leaders. Once again, brilliant race control work this weekend on a weekend that I have been massively impressed by everything that I've seen from the officiating here. Because what's going to happen here is the Lamborghini will get waved by, and everybody who pitted there, ideally there'll be no advantage or disadvantage, I think, at the end of this safety car period.
Yep, there's going to be some hungry competitors in behind looking to make up some spots early on this restart. They come underneath the High-Tech Oils Bridge, and at frightening speeds they come back down into Murray's Corner. But how is the margin already from second back to third? They're getting caught up, and Rio, you've passed underneath the yellow still. He's going to try and redress that possibly, but he can't do that. So he's unfortunately gotten a little bit cheeky there on that restart, and now they're stacking up behind him. We're almost 3 wide in an overlap here into turn number 1 at Hell Corner. The Shields entry moves up into position number 3. Almost the big loser out of that is the Kelly number 99. There's contact coming out of Hell Corner. And
that was the Rio in the 88 and the 51. The Audi as well, as they went the 99 as they went side by side. The 51 Porsche did get through as we thought, but Rio, what were you thinking, man? It was that 944 Porsche that caused that. Nothing that Cody West could do. He was flat out, only had 240 horsepower, brand new, that car, great handling. He did exactly the right thing, stayed on the racing line. Rio saw the gap down the inside and went for it, but that was a huge overlap before even the apex of the final corner, never mind the control line.
Yeah, interesting to note, though, he's fallen back into position right now, but no doubt the officials will certainly have a word to him after that. You can see the debris flags, the oil flags at the moment, just letting drivers know that there is still some fluid on the road at that particular point of the racetrack. The grate that we mentioned, the cars fly down, load a lot on the right-hand side of the car, and these cars are just brilliant across the top with their high downforce package.
These GT3 cars, the fastest thing across the top of the mountain ever, as far as closed-top cars are concerned in competition. Extraordinary how much speed they can take through some of the most difficult and nuanced corners in any motor racing circuit in the world.
So they're coming out of Forest Elbow at the moment. Of course, Stutter was the leader once the field came back to green. You can see the shots there at the moment that Keith Kasuki is right in behind, and here comes the Brad Shields iMac Porsche as well. How much margin can he make up on these leaders towards the back end of this race? We've only got 15 minutes to go. The checkered flag will come out, incidentally, bang on the 1 hour. So that's what's going to happen. It will fly literally bang on the 1 hour. It will fly on whoever comes across the line first. And incidentally, once that time does expire, that will therefore be the final lap. So the margin at the line, from first back to second, it is currently at just 7/10 of a second. You go further back to 1.8 seconds and you find Shields in position 3.
Yeah, and he's done a great job. Bradley Shields did exactly the right thing on the restart. He bided his time, he waited, he didn't make the... I mean, I know everybody's under pressure and they really want to get the best restart they can, but you've got to know the rules here. And Rio did redress, and not hearing at the moment about anything that needs to, any intervention that needs to come from race control. Going through the 99 LMS Audi, the R8 GT3 car. That was a position made up as Rio dropped in behind that, so he's now dropped down to 6th position, and the 991 going through as well, which is an Audi. That should be a Porsche with a number like 991.
Yeah,
that's the current iteration. 911, 991. I expect to see those on Porsches in WEC racing. That's rather throwing me out on this emulation. Great restart though by Daniel Stuttert, but behind him now, not one but two hungry drivers. Keith Kasuki's going to have to make a move shortly at the top of the mountain, and he's going to try and make it side by side down through the S's. You just don't make that stick. But here comes Bradley Shields. It's a 3-car battle for the lead.
That side by side down the S's is something we see Shane Van Gisbergen do here in February. Not at the moment. It's crazy right now. So Shields is closed, and you can throw a blanket over the top 3 right now. Stutter already starting to move that car over, making that Porsche as wide as he possibly can. Now the slipstream effect is going to be crucial here. Watch for Shields in this iMac Porsche position number 3. He's darting on the right-hand side of the road at the moment. You've got to be careful because there's a crown over the course in the middle of the racetrack there, so it can be very difficult to control these cars at frightening speeds heading down Conrod Straight. Picking up the curb there a little bit with Keith Kasuki on that right front. Down under brakes into the chase. This is a scintillating battle right now. Kasuki looks strong in 2nd spot. He's got to be careful how he goes about this, because here comes Shields, and he darts across the road there to Keith Kasuki. They've really got to be careful here. It's almost like they're fighting for sheep stations right now. This has got the recipe almost for disaster, Johnny.
Oh, this is brilliant stuff. 3 very... two different types of cars with the engine at the back in the Porsche, and down the inside here comes Shields into Hell Corner. Classic overtake here at Bathurst on the High-Tech Oils front straight, and gets it done clean as a whistle. I think Keith there might have just had a bit of target lock on the leader and wasn't maybe covering the inside line as he was coming into Murray's. Maybe didn't think Bradley was close enough, but he was super confident on the brakes there. Lovely overtake, and now let's set about the leader.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's Porsche 1 and 2 on the mountain right now. Mustang, we haven't said that for a while, in position number 3 as well, as they dart it back into the cutting. Time is skipping away right now. We've still got 11.5 minutes left in this race. Shields has got time against him here though. He's just got to be patient, be calm. The last thing you want to do right now is to find yourself into trouble and point this thing in the wall. Geez, they've got to be careful there, don't they, with that oil dry at the moment across the racetrack. It's very slippery conditions up there, but it's all single file formation down here until you get to Conrod Straight.
Just a slight difference in configuration of the two Porsches. The second of the Porsches running as an RSR. Now that normally would designate that was a WEC or an IMSA car, but there's just a slight bit of bodywork. It's still running as a GT3, of course, but there's some subtle differences on that car that follow on from the RSR road car. You'll see there's some louvres over the front guards that the lead Porsche doesn't have. It sits a little wider at the moment, so they're not exactly the same, these cars, and they will have different strengths and weaknesses. And Bradley Shields likes the flat 6 pushing him down the Conrod Straight, but the outright speed of the 23 studded car pretty good. Once it gets its legs stretched, it is hitting VMAX quite nicely.
Maybe not so much got the higher downforce package that that car in behind has, so it's probably got a little bit more of a slipstream effect, of course, in that straight line. But where this Porsche makes up its speed is under brakes, and we saw him go for the move on that previous lap into Hell Corner, turn number 1, and this is where it's going to be right now. So Shields will move the car towards driver's left here, darts on the brakes really late, change for the lead with 10 minutes left in the 1 hour enduro here at Mount Panorama for the production sports cars. As we predicted, Brad Shields into the lead, and no doubt will set off into the sunset.
That's a fabulous point that you made there, Brian, about the extra aero that the now leading Porsche has. You see the second place Porsche is a little bit narrower, doesn't have all the little flicky aero bits that stick out there, just a little bit smooth around the rear arches as well, not perhaps as wide. That makes it slippery in a straight line down the tubes, and there's some fast straights here, but he's going to give up a little bit of grip, aerodynamic grip on some of the faster corners. Should be all right on the slower stuff. Porsche's traditionally a lot of mechanical grip, but you've got to get that balance right here at the mountain. It is a real compromise circuit between top speed and top grip, and coming to play for the battle for second now, a 3-car battle pack, as in comes the 991. That's the perfect auto body Vince Murty Murity and Timothy Macro Audi R8 Ultra 5.2 litre V10. Thank you very much.
It's not bad, is it? Look at Murtry trying to move that car around. Not to forget as well, Daniel Gaunt in that 124 Audi Sport Customer Racing machine is really hammering through this field at the moment as well. So he's been a late charger in this race as well. Big move looking down the inside. There's not much room to move there, unfortunately, for Murtry. Thankfully enough, though, he just stood on the anchors enough and decides to sit back in fourth for the moment.
It is an interesting corner, the Forest Sailboat, because there are a number of different lines you can take. I've spoken to drivers around here who absolutely say, no, I take the classic line, stay out to the right-hand side and then cut back, use the downslope and the camber. There are other people, David Brabham, one of them, always goes down and hugs the wall on the left-hand side and then just turns in almost if it was a NASCAR-style banked corner and speedways it out again and pops out onto the exit.
It's so enticing, isn't it? Because that concrete wall actually squares itself off in the middle of the corner, and that's actually caught some people out over the years too. So here comes Murtry now. We'll move the car towards the left-hand side of the road here, heading down into Hell Corner, and this time by will get the job done. There's not much room between the two of them though, but into position number 3 now for Murtry, and will set his sights on Daniel Stutter, who is, you've got to say, doing a remarkable job because he's holding off that pressure at the moment. How's the margin from first back to second? 4.9 seconds, and here comes Daniel Gaunt as well, moving this car hard right, and now we'll go back towards the left-hand side of the road. Keith Kasuki is defending for his life right now as they go up through Griffin's Bend. Yeah,
and Keith is struggling, I think, for a little bit of rear grip. It's very, very hot indeed, and he's just not getting that V8 power down to the ground. Now that's if that is the case and Keith's struggling for a little bit of rear grip, it's going to hurt him coming out the corners, but actually it also helps you on the way in. Once the tyres start to wear, you don't have the balance of the car and you can't be as aggressive coming into the corners, and he certainly can't then trail brake the car, and what I mean by that is just hold the brake on beyond the turning point towards the pointy bit at the centre, the apex. You can't do that when the tyres are starting to go off. He might have to go up a little bit on the traction control to help that, but then that's going to hurt him punching out of the corners. It's a very fine balance, but Keith is fighting a rear guard action at the moment.
This is a great battle, isn't it? Really enjoying this. It's interesting to note that for Dan Studdard, he needs to hold on to this position, obviously, to finish on the podium for this weekend. But the Shields McPherson entry with Brad Shields behind the wheel, like we mentioned, has gone. I'd be interested to see what this Dan Gaunt car can do. Of course, fourth in the train right now. If he got clear air, the lap times on that Audi would be absolutely mighty as he moves now
he's got him.
And looks towards the inside. Now, this is going to be dicey because they're going to be side by side at the kink at frightening speeds here, but we'll get the job done just before it, which is crucial. So Dan Gaunt now moving up another spot here and just inside that top 5.
What's that, 270, 280k, something like that going into there, and that's where the aero, the additional aero of the R8 was really helping Dan Gaunt. Meanwhile, into Murray's pass for second position. Check that for second position. As through goes the 991. Vince Murray goes through and takes that, and now Daniel Gaunt's got to do the same thing. It will be 3 across the track into Hell Corner, and coming from a very long way back. The Audi wasn't really there and backed out of it. Actually, in the end, that was pretty good driving by the Audi number 124. That's the Dan Gaunt car.
He was pinched up there on the curb, wasn't he, as he went through Hell Corner that time by Dan. Was not giving him an inch and quite within his means, but now they're side by side into Griffin's Bend. Again, Dan is giving him absolutely nothing and heads up driving once again for Gaunt, because he backed out of that then for the second time in the space of 2 corners. And what they're doing now is banking themselves up, because the 99 car of Kelly here is back into the fight once again.
Now, what's interesting to me here, though, is the Daniel Studdard, the 23 Porsche, at the head of this field, still holding on to a podium position, remember, just about with the skin of his teeth. But he's not driving a defensive line.
No.
He's just going into the corner and saying, guys, if you can outbrake me down the inside, I will give you room. And we've seen he has on a couple of occasions, once for the lead and once when he lost second place. But I'm not going to make life easy, and I'm certainly not going to compromise my exit from the corner and let you big, more powerful cars get by me on the straight. My advantage is on the straight. I'm going to get on the straight as quickly as I can and get up to VMAX, maximum velocity, as fast as I can in this slightly narrower, slightly more slippery Porsche.
If he is blocking, he's doing it in a smart manner, because he's moving the car at the last moment at the pinch of the corner, not moving it down the straights and really covering to hurt his exit speeds. He's just doing it in that gentle gentlemanly manner to make sure that none of these guys in behind get past. But as we know, he's got a very strong Audi sitting in behind. He might be half a chance here very shortly.
Stays about a car's width away from the edge of the track over the brow and then just drifts across to the left-hand side. But a good run down the inside by the Audi, and well, that's perfect. Daniel did everything he could. He didn't try to fight into the chase, and through goes Dan Gaunt on the 23. So the two Dans battling it out there, but it will be now leading Porsche, the RSR version, and then the two Audis, second and third. Gap between first and second, remember this, 10.8 seconds. But even with the fastest lap last time around for Vince Murty in the second place car, a 2:09.1 is his fastest lap, and he still lost the better part of 8/10 of a second to the lead.
It'll be interesting to see what this lap time is here for Dan Gaunt on this one. He's going to be the first time that he's got a fair bit of clear air in front. This battle will continue. This has been going on for minute 1 between these two at the moment.
Yeah, but now instead of being for the lead, it's going to be for 4th and 5th position. And Keith Kasulki may be just cooling his tyres down a little bit. He's got to be careful though, because coming up behind him, the number 99, that's another Audi, the Industry Clothing, Nick Kelly and Barton Morakar. I'm not sure which of the boys got into that second on the pit stop strategy, but that car will be joining them shortly. And now this is interesting because Kasulki can drag back. Very different lines being taken through the first part of the top of the mountain, and Kasulki, he's now had enough of looking at the orange and white Porsche ahead of him. He wants to be by.
Yeah, and this is exactly what happened between the pair of them yesterday as well. So it's not just been a matter of, I've seen your Porsche all weekend in race 2, I've seen it all in race number 1 as well.
He knows exactly what's on the back of that Porsche off by heart. He's seeing it in his sleep, isn't he?
Oh, and unfortunately down here at Murray's Corner, the 72 has come a cropper into the sand trap, and that will be probably maybe a localised yellow down there.
Doug Smith and the Smith STMP Porsche, one of the 3.6 Class A cars.
Our class leader as well.
It was a Class B car, yeah, it was our class leader. Oh, well, that's great news for the second of the Class B cars, but I'm afraid very bad news indeed. Andrew Adams has just gone through in the Well Pro Racing Ginetta GT4, so Ginetta leads Class B. Now, jumped or pushed in that very pretty blue Porsche? Answer, jumped. Locked up, back end, Murray's in the bunker.
That's odd, because he was a long way off there, wasn't he?
I wonder if maybe he had an issue further back. Might have even had a little bit of a stuck throttle there, because it looked like the back wheels were locked a long way back. He's going to need a sandwich to get out of there.
And unfortunately, safety car being called, because that car is in a precarious position there at Murray's, and that will put an end to what has been, you've got to say, a brilliant race from our production sports cars here this morning. It really does set the scene for the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. This, incidentally, will be the final lap now, because the checkered flag will wave with just under a minute now left remaining.
And the safety car, this time around, has picked up the leader because it was able to do so. So again, great officiating, well done to all of our volunteers around the circuit, over 300 of them here this Easter weekend, giving up their precious holiday time as well. We salute every man and woman amongst you. Thank you very much for being a part of this weekend. We simply can't go racing without the volunteers. That is what makes motor racing such an inclusive sport, I think. I call them professionals always. I know they don't get wages, but the way that they conduct themselves on the flag posts, recovery, track services, they're all total professionals in my eyes.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great way to get involved in motorsport if you can't go racing yourself as well. So this will be the final lap, as we mentioned. A brilliant drive from Brad Shields at the second part of this race to vault himself towards the lead. We saw amazing battles between Moultrie. We had also Dan Gaunt, Dan Studd, and Keith Kasulki in the mix as well, not to mention Nick Kelly in that 99 Audi, as well as the field rolls across the top of Mount Panorama. As we mentioned, it would have been interesting to see what time Dan Gaunt did on that previous lap. Well, he set a 2:08.674, which was very fast. I think it was only just a couple of tenths away from your race leader at the time, so pretty handy speed. Had they not had a bad qualifying session on Friday afternoon, they might have been half a chance of taking a couple of wins here this weekend.
Brian, I'm going to take my leave of you now, because I'm going to go and lie in a darkened room for a little while and do a bit of swatting up for the High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hours. And the next time you hear my voice, will be after Becky Lamb has been speaking at the top of our show, which is just under 15 minutes away. Brian will have the results for you from this Prod Sports event here on the mountain in just a moment's time.
Thank you very much to John and, of course, the entire team. They'll be bringing you coverage of the Hi-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour right across Australia on the channel of Fox Sports, 5:05, I should say, today, with ad break free as well, coming your way in just over 10 minutes' time, in fact. So the field trundling through Forest Elbow at the moment. They'll come and greet the checkered flag in just a moment as well. There's that glorious GT40 that we spoke at the hands of Scott Fleming as well. So had some great action this weekend from our Prod Sports cars. Unfortunately, that Porsche that we made mention of earlier on, Cody West, stopped there on driver's left, heading down Conrod Straight as well. So we've had a couple of safety car finishes, unfortunately, this morning. Hopefully that's not a recipe for or a possible precursor to this afternoon, because it's going to be a brilliant Hi-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. So field rolling down Conrod Straight under the control of the Hi-Tech Oils Toyota 86 safety car. We've had 19 laps completed in this race. We'll click over 20. Incidentally, that's exactly what we had in the race here yesterday, 20 laps as well. And it's been an absolute joy to be up here for the production sports cars this weekend. It's been some great racing. We saw that in the final race number 2 this afternoon. They'll come underneath the Hi-Tech Oils bridge, and it'll be safety car that will possibly cross the line first. But if you're up there on Murray's Quarter at home as well and joining us across the world, make sure you make a bit of noise, because Brad Shields will come across the line with Andrew McPherson this weekend and take the 1 hour win for your production sports cars events here at Mount Panorama. 2 from 2, believe it or not, and that goes off their win they had in the 1 hour enduro last year on Sunday as well. A tremendous drive from the pair of them, and Brad Shields certainly earned his money. Of course, Bathurstian as well, we need to make mention. Brad Shields, a local here at Mount Panorama, so he knows this place like the back of his hand, and he will certainly enjoy the win there. Haven't been defeated in a 1 hour enduro here at Mount Panorama since 2016, because keeping in mind we only had the 1 hour enduro here 12 months ago. So Brad Shields takes the win. Vince Murtry home in position number 2, Dan Gaunt position 3, Daniel Stutter in the end in 4th, Keith Gasuki, Nick Kelly, Richard Gartner, Ian Pretty, Jose Fernandez, and later on through Ross Lilly, completing the top 10 there for our 1 hour enduro. Incidentally, our class winners, Fernandez in Class A. Class B was taken out by Andrew Adams in car number 60. Class C, Stillwell, Michael and Dave, of course the father and son combination for Class C. And Class F, congratulations to Dougie Barber in the 911 Audi. So there we have it, production sports cars here at Mount Panorama, wrapping up our support car category, Bill, because coming up next in just under 10 minutes time, of course, we'll have coverage of the Hi-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour.